Wow, the time is flying. I can't believe we're like halfway through October already. Welcome to another edition of Woodall's Campground Magazine's Outdoor Hospitality Update. And I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine. And of course, we have Mike Gast, my co host,
Everybody.
former vice president of communications at Campgrounds of America. And he writes for RVTravel.com now. And he's writing a lot of good stuff on RVTravel.com. So it's worth heading over to check out.
Thank you.
You guys have been very active on that website. So I look forward to the newsletter every week and just seeing what you guys come up with. Our guests today, I'll just kind of let them introduce themselves. So Kitty, I guess we'll start with you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your park.
Awesome. I'm Kitty Winship. My husband Duncan and I own Papoose Pond Family Campground and Cabins up in Waterford, Maine. We are 240 spots, 180 of them are campsites, 60 of them are accommodations, and we run a destination park with full activities, entertainment, all kinds of different amenities. People come to us because there's nothing else around us.
Do you guys deliver lobsters to people's campsites?
We don't.
No,
No,
we don't.
we're
No
not
lobster.
by the coast.
Okay.
We are not by the coast at all.
Okay. All right. So non-coastal. Okay. And then Trent, I guess, just tell us what you do.
Sure. So I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Leisure Systems, which is the franchisor of Yogi Bear's Jellystone Park Camp Resorts. There are 75 Jellystone Park locations across the U.S. and Canada. They're all independently owned and operated, and I don't believe any of them deliver lobsters to campsites either, but I could be wrong on that. And just from my background, I've been with Leisure Systems in the outdoor hospitality industry for a little over 3 years. And before that, my expertise was in family entertainment marketing. I worked in home entertainment and the video game industry, working with a lot of licensed characters ranging from Scooby-Doo to Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen to Disney and Pixar characters like Finding Nemo and The Incredibles.
Yeah. So I know Yogi Bear, but what was this girl, the girl bear's name?
That's
What's
Cindy
her name?
Bear.
That's Cindy Bear. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I've only watched a couple episodes of Yogi Bear. Sorry, Trent. I should have maybe watched a few more. So,
More kid time.
Yeah. It's great to have you both on. And I know Mike and I wanted just to dive into some millennial family topics, really just kind of how, what millennial families are looking for and, how parks can attract families and what's different things that you can do with families, kids, and not only just the kids, but teenagers and parents, because the parents like to do things too. So I guess, Trent, I guess you do a lot. I mean, that's your target market's pretty much millennial families at the moment, I guess. What do you guys do at LSI to make sure that your franchisees are just kind of staying on the cutting edge of what families are looking for, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, for the Jellystone parks, our key differentiation is it's all about the attractions, the activities, and the character interactions that they have at the parks. And most of our audience is in that 6 to 12 range. But as you noticed, or as you said, there certainly are families that come with some younger kids and some older kids, and the activities and attractions go all the way. So some of the younger kids love, splash grounds and even coloring time and interacting with the characters. And then the 6 to 12, which is really our sweet spot, for the attractions, it's all about the water stuff. So pools, splash grounds, water slides definitely hits home big with the key part of that audience. And then as you get a little bit older, that's where the interest kind of switches a little bit more towards laser tag, paintball, even zip lining. So, our parks offer a lot of different attractions and activities because, as you can imagine, lots of families have lots of different age kids and everybody wants something different. It's kind of like, what's the best, restaurant for a family? Well, all sorts of families want different things. So each of our parks, do things a little bit differently, but it's all really geared towards that 6 to 12-year-old. And, we're very fortunate that we don't really have complaints that people come and say, oh, the kids are bored and they want to go home, because with people having such limited, time to spend on vacation, as a parent myself, I know that would be the worst thing, was to go somewhere, spend your hard-earned dollars and your vacation time, and then have the kids go, this is boring, Mom. Can we go back home? and then you know that it's ruined it for kids and the parents.
So I'd ask this question to both of you. The huge influx of new campers that we've had this year, a lot of those are millennials. A lot of those are 35 and under adults with kids and with relatively new equipment. Did that kind of swamp the ship at Yellowstone or at Jellystone and at Kitty's Park with your ability to really deliver on those activities?
Kitty, you want to go first?
Sure. Honestly, I don't think so, because I think at least for a park like us, and I would think it would be similar for like a Jellystone type park where it's a destination and they're coming to you for the amenities. A lot of, and Ben and I were just talking about this before the show started, a lot of the new campers that we're seeing this year are typically your guests who would have gone on cruises or all-inclusive resorts, things like that. And so they're still looking for those same type of activities, but they're excited to get to do them outside where it's seemingly safer, quote unquote. So our activities went pretty much the same as they have in the past, and we just rolled in a whole new group of customers who I think will come back for many years because we showed them that you can do all these things in an outside setting and it's just as much fun.
And I think this goes back to a Jellystone Park, Gary Quigley at the Pittsburgh Jellystone or Harrisburg, something
Yeah.
up there. It's in Pennsylvania. Close enough. So he mentioned kind of like what Kitty was saying. They had a ton of families come in and they were telling them, hey, we normally go to Myrtle Beach. We normally go to a beach destination or something like that. And we came to your park and we didn't know this was here. We lived nearby. And my kids had the best time that they've ever had on a vacation. Why are we wasting our money to go to Myrtle Beach when you guys are 20 minutes, in our backyard, and they're having a blast. And Gary was just mentioning to me how they're getting a ton of repeat customers just from that because they love the atmosphere and they love the activities. So I think a lot of parks are noticing that as well. So
yeah, we've definitely seen that. Just like Kitty said, and you mentioned from Gary that from our own consumer survey research, that 50% of the guests that came this summer told us that they had never been to a Jellystone park before, and we've always had a great history of repeat traffic. People love it and come back a lot, so we think that that'll bode well for the future. And I think with the pandemic, having people look at camping that weren't before, I think there were a lot of people that when they picture camping, it's the very old school roughing it of, I'm going to stay in a tent and sleep on a, hard floor and everything. And especially nowadays with cabins, which are becoming so popular that I don't think I had a single park reach out to me this year and said, I couldn't fill my cabins. That when you tell mom, who does a lot of the family research and at least at Jellystones, makes the reservations and everything, that you can come camping, but camping means, warm bed, hot shower, private bathroom, Wi-Fi, and a flat screen TV. And you can take the kids and you can, go on hikes in the outdoors. You can, cook your s'mores over the open fire. But then when everybody's ready for a little bit of a break or an entertainment, you can then go in the pool, ride the water slide, do, chocolate pudding eating contests and dance party with Yogi. And they're like, oh, and that means camping. That's a totally different thing that my family would, definitely be into, because it's all about being a family entertainment destination. Just as Kitty said, people come and they spend their entire time, at the park. And especially for people that, previously would fly out of state or go to Disney World or something, the value proposition is insanely crazy because, they offer the, activities and attractions that we offer is basically the same as either a traditional, mid-level hotel or taking a family forward to the aquarium, the zoo, or a Major League Baseball game. You put all that together, it's a huge discount compared to what you would get at, for a staycation, let alone going to Myrtle Beach or Disney World or flying out to California or whatever, a lot of these families would have done had COVID-19 not entered our lives.
How has it changed your marketing, Kitty? Is it, since you're going after people that are probably inexperienced or haven't been there before, is there a different way you're trying to reach this group?
I mean, not because of that reason, just really more like as our customer changes and becomes younger and more, into social media and more looking for places on the internet, we've pivoted more of our marketing into, Facebook ads and Google AdWords, things like that, rather than, some of the more traditional, like handing out brochures and, being in a lot of print ads. So I think in that way, our marketing has changed a little bit. For us personally, also because of last year, because Maine specifically had so many travel restrictions, we really pivoted hard into more of a local customer rather than, for us, our traditional customer base came out of Massachusetts and New Hampshire in addition to Maine. But, last year and this year, we pushed a lot of our marketing dollars back into the state of Maine to try to get people who were closer to us, who, felt more comfortable traveling in state closer to home.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we had heard, how does the oh man, I lost my train of thought. This is what happens when you get old. I just boof, it's gone. Whatever. So I guess on the amenity side, what are the millennial families looking for? Are we mentioned that they're driving newer RVs. Are they looking for the cabins and different things? What's the demand like on that end? I guess Trent, what are you seeing, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, for the accommodations, we've certainly seen, for several years, even before COVID, a huge increase in the number of people that want to stay in cabins, because then you get, you don't have to have an RV, or you don't have to have even camping experience. Basically, you pull up, especially at those locations that offer linen service. It's basically like a hotel. You make your reservation, you pull up, and most of the things are already there for you. So we've certainly seen a lot more there. And with the newer customers, even on the RVs, we've seen higher interest in even going faster and faster in terms of advanced bookings and, pull throughs and, padded sites, things that are easier for people so they don't have to worry about backing in and everything from that standpoint. So we've seen a little bit of a change from there in terms of the accommodations, and back from the actual attractions that people are looking for. It's definitely all about the water attractions, because it is summer, everybody's hot, so they want to cool off. So, and everything that we've seen and done, water is our number one driver. So whether that's pools or splash grounds or water slides, or even some of the, ancillary, like water wars, where you have the slingshots and you can shoot, water balloons back and forth at each other. Like, everybody loves to do that, summer fun. So I think those are really the key things that are driving new people to look at, campgrounds as family entertainment destinations, as opposed to just the old school camping.
Kitty, I know you have tent sites. You have some pretty fancy tent sites, if I remember correctly. You guys have like pads for the tents, or like separate tent areas, I guess.
So we have one section of our park where we have they're for tents or even pop-ups or small trailers, but they're basically a campsite. They're still dirt, packed dirt, but they have a shelter on the site that has a picnic table, outdoor kitchen, and 4-burner stove, and then also has a private bathroom, fully plumbed toilet, sink, shower right on your site. So those are really popular with tenters and pop-ups, and people who want the privacy of their own bathroom while not having to invest in a large trailer or motorhome.
Do you have a lot of millennial families that use those sites? I mean, do those sell out pretty quickly?
I do. To be honest, like, I don't, as a millennial, I don't really look at my customer base as millennial or non-millennial. I think that all of our campers, no matter what age they are looking for the same type of things. They're all looking for clean bathrooms and friendly staff, fun amenities, a good experience, a good value, like Trent was talking about.
Yeah, and we see the same thing, that the consumers are more focused at their families less than their millenniums. I mean, that certainly affects some things, as Kitty said, that yes, moving to digital ads and things are more important to reach those audiences, but it's really the family is the accent more than the millennial, at least from, the experience that I've
Right.
had.
And I think especially today where we're seeing people having kids at, an older age than we did historically, 20 years ago, that I think it's important to recognize that your families are not necessarily the same age group as they used to be.
Let's switch over to the operational side of it for a second. I know one of the challenges that campgrounds across the country faced this year was in staffing. What was staffing like this last summer when you've got all this pressure of people changing jobs, people the actual base wages going up in a lot of states and federally? That had to be a big challenge for this season.
Yeah, it definitely was. We were incredibly blessed. We have an amazing core staff that we keep around year round, and they are worth their weight in gold. Um, and we have, over the years, thankfully fostered relationships with local high schools, with a lot of the hospitality and tourism college programs and at the local universities. And so we actually had pretty good luck finding, staff in that kind of high school college age. Where it was really difficult was your more mature, higher skilled level positions, things like that, office
So,
staff, security.
so Trent, what about you? Does Leisure Systems do something for their franchisees to help with the staffing end of it?
So the individual locations are responsible for their own hiring, and the HR issues. So we provided them with advice and guidance, but it's up to them. And, as Kitty was saying, it seems to mirror a lot that, for a lot of the parks have relationships with the local high schools and colleges, and they were able to, find people a lot. But there was certainly some issues with, limited workforce. And then I think the other part of the equation that really hit our parks, and I'm guessing Kitty found the same thing, was, we've been growing so much, and even 2020 was our all-time high, and 2021 is going to blow those numbers away by a huge margin. So you had, record numbers of people coming and, record amounts of people staying at the park at the same time, while there were limits on staffing. So even if you were able to get, 80% of what your normal staffing would be, that's, good, I guess. But when your, customer base jumps by another, I don't know, 30 to 50%, depending on the park, it just really strains people. So there definitely were, more concerns. And, a lot of people would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I worked, another 80-hour work week, which I'm just amazed by the people who can do that at the park all the time. But, most of the parks were able to find ways around it, whether it was, some parks even called people back that, used to work at the park maybe 2 or 3 years ago and just, grew up and moved out and whatever. And then, especially in the second half of the season, said, hey, would you want to come out and work a couple of weekends? And for, again, the, kids that were in high school or college a few years ago, it's kind of fun to go back to, hang out with Yogi Bear and, play with kids, whether you're playing Gaga or foam parties or whatever. So, luckily, I think, for our campground industries, we have more fun jobs than, the kids that are at McDonald's or, whatever. So, there were some benefits there, and parks had to do a lot more for retention bonuses to have people stay, especially through the fall and Halloween, because for our parks, Halloween is almost like a second summer. There are, parks now doing, 5, 6, even 7 Halloween weekends, and they're filling up, by the time you get to July. So staffing certainly was an issue. I think a lot of our parks did pretty well with it, but yes, it was far from, perfect and ideal given all the external situations that were happening this summer.
So I can certainly see the Leisure System parks as well as Kitty's would be the first rung of what these new campers would be looking for, because they're looking for that experience that you guys provide so well. Was there some disappointment with or misunderstanding, I guess, with the time lag? I mean, you've got to make your reservations so far in advance now. Were there some people that just weren't able to get in that you just had to say, I'm sorry, we're full all the weekends, or we're even full during the midweek now? Was it such a crush on those new people that they just couldn't get where they wanted to be?
I mean, we certainly heard that from some people through, social media that would say, "Oh, I'd love to see, your ads in the post and whatever." And I, reached out and just every weekend was full. And we told people, look for other locations or do midweek stays, or even in June and July, probably even before that, we were telling people like, we have Halloween weekends, book now because those usually sell out. And unfortunately, there were places where, it was just 100% capacity for, weeks at a time. And that's a quote unquote good problem to have. Like, we're happy that we're sold out. We're, wish we had opportunity for new people to come in, but it wasn't just, us even in the campgrounds. I think it was other things like, my wife and I went for personal vacation to Colorado in July, and we started calling, hotels 2 months in advance. And there were places that were completely booked for the dates that we were. I think that, so many people were driven to such small, options of things that were in the outdoors, and everyone was backlogged from being trapped inside the house, especially, mom with kids from 2020, that everybody wants to go out and do everything for the summer. So yes, there wasn't always inventory for everybody, but I think that was a relatively small number of people. And most of them were only looking at specific dates, especially if you wanted, the third weekend in July. It's like, well, that was sold out long ago. And if you're not willing or able to, stay from a Tuesday to Friday, unfortunately, those people just had limited options.
Yeah. I guess, looking at like the unique activities and stuff that people are looking for, especially for like a destination park, I guess when you have these types of staffing, if you have staffing issues, I guess how does that impact like your activity schedule? I guess Kitty, it sounded like you were able to, staff pretty well this summer. Were there any issues on that front as far as being able to do your normal activity schedule and being able to provide everything that you normally would?
For us, we didn't. We ran as pretty much normal, thankfully, this summer. But I think kind of one of the things that came out of some of the staffing challenges is that we learned how to work smarter and not harder. We really especially dove into our our specific hourly sales in different places, and our specific like how many people are actually coming into the office after 8 o'clock at night. And we really trimmed down some of the hours in our different ancillary locations after looking at, what our records, our, historical data was for what we did in specific time frames. So, we really took the time to figure out where we could trim back without trimming the customer experience.
So there's a cottage industry that's built up around campgrounds as far as campground activities go. There's a specialized playground people, and there's jumping pillows and pads and water park features. Where do you guys go to get your fresh ideas? Where do you get the next best thing in activities?
So for us, a lot of it is things like this, that you guys host, that we see on the different like Facebook pages, going to the different conventions, our state convention, for me, the Northeast Campground, RVic. 20 groups are a huge thing for us. We are in an RVic 20 group. That's a great way to kind of see what everyone else is doing. And honestly, having a young child, we have a 10-year-old, and he's always on the internet. He's always looking at things and is coming to us like, we should have this at the campground. This would be so cool. Having your finger on the pulse of the upcoming generation definitely doesn't hurt.
There you go. Every park owner needs to go get a kid. Probably 4 or 5 years old, maybe a little older. If you want to do teenager activities, then you need to go get a teenager. So, but
and polling your staff, like we employ a lot of teenagers. Yeah. And teenagers are the hardest age group to do activities for. And so I ask my teenage staff every single summer, what would be a cool thing for us to add here at the park that you would want to do if you were camping here? Like if they actually think that you value their opinion and will take it seriously, they have amazing ideas.
Yeah, and I think and just as Kitty said, and those are all great ideas to get within the industry. And then as she said when she was talking about her child, like we certainly look outside. We want to see what's happening at theme parks and family entertainment centers and things that are outside the industry to pick what's next. And because like the newest thing, at least that I've seen at Jellystone Park, that I think is growing by leaps and bounds is the floating obstacle courses, whether it's Wibbit or Aquaglide or something like that kids love. It's you look at American Ninja Warrior and Wipeout, and you put those together, and you get the things that you can go out and you can climb on, and there's monkey bars and there's slides that are 14 feet high, and we've had parks put those in lakes. A couple of parks put smaller features in swimming pools, and we've had at least 2 locations that I know of that literally dug out a man-made lake. They put a sandy beach outside. They put floating obstacle course in the middle, and kids love it, especially from 6-year-olds to even the teens. That's one of those things that really appeals to them. And I heard of one of the locations even said the lifeguards that are there, they get their 15-minute breaks, and instead of going inside to grab a Coke, when you see the lifeguards go out and play on the structure, that tells you, oh, you've got something really fun here. So yeah, I mean, those are great things, and you're always looking for what's the next thing to put the emphasis on entertainment at the entertainment experience.
So anytime you throw a inexperienced group like these new campers, the younger campers, into an activity like this, you're going to have conflicts, whether that's etiquette questions, when you've got kids running around with bicycles and quiet hours and fire restrictions. How do you manage that? How do you educate this new crowd as to how to behave on a campground?
Yeah, and I think you hit it. I mean, a lot of it is education because, most of the issues, at least that I like to think, are, accidental, that people might not know that it's quote unquote rude to, walk through somebody else's campsite, that you don't necessarily know to, treat that as somebody's front lawn, so to speak. So we actually have even, put together a little etiquette sheet that parks have that they can send to, campers via email before they get there. They can put it in welcome kits. They can have it blown up as a poster. So, I think that takes care of a lot of stuff, especially when you just educate people either in advance or when you see a small issue to, talk to them. The bigger concerns are usually for the people that unfortunately just aren't, ready and willing to listen to the rules. And that's when you get the people that, don't believe that quiet hours, apply to them. And that's where it's the one bad apple ruins the bunch. And, the camps, the staff at the locations do have to, treat that with a heavier hand. But I think a lot of it is just letting people know, what's expected and what's, proper quote unquote etiquette and not, because a lot of times people just don't know. And once they know, they're like, oh yeah, I get it. That totally makes sense. Thanks. And, that can take care of a lot of the smaller problems. And then, some of the other ones are things that unfortunately there's not a whole lot that education can deal with. And you just hope that those are individuals that realize that, a Jellystone Park or a, family campground like Papoose Pond may not be the best fit for them, going forward.
So Trent, is all the activities at Jellystone's all inclusive? Is it just part of the adventure, or do we have parks out there that are wristbanding some things or upcharging for some certain activities?
Yeah, there are certain activities. I try and advise the parks to include most of the things, but there are some like sometimes laser tag you pay for a session, or the inflatable or the floating obstacle courses usually you pay for an hour session. And some of the things that are physical in terms of your tie-dye shirts or your painted ceramics, those have extra costs. But we try and have most of the stuff, whether that's the pool, the water slides, the mini golf, the dance parties, the foam parties. I try and advise people that include as much of that as possible, because that's just better for the consumer experience. You know exactly what you're paying. You go in and, yes, you're covering your own food and things, but you don't have to worry about, oh, how much does it cost to go on the jumping pillow? How much is a round of mini golf? How much does it cost to be in the chocolate pudding eating contest? How much does it cost to go into Yogi's dance party? A lot of that stuff is all there. So I would say, 80+% of it is all included. So there's plenty of stuff for families that want to do it without paying any of the paid experiences. But then there are the extra things, whether that's the obstacle courses or tie-dye or things of that nature for some people that are looking for extras. We even have some more paid private character appearances where it could be, Yogi delivering cookies and milk and doing a story time at your site, or sometimes it's cookie decorating with Cindy Bear. So Ben, if you want to hang out with Cindy Bear and get to know her, you could do that. So there are lots of different options, but yes, we want to make sure that everybody that comes, without paying anything extra, if they don't want to, they get a full family experience for the whole weekend.
So Kitty, what are campers willing to stand in line and wait for at as far as activities go at Papoose Pond? What's the big thing?
Probably tie-dye is one of the big ones. Like I'm amazed at, because 80% of our customers are repeat every single year. And so every single year they line up and they come and tie-dye a new shirt. It's awesome. And for us, we have an antique carousel. It's the oldest on the East Coast, and
Wow.
it's really fun to get to ride an old-fashioned carousel. So people line up for that. Ice cream, build your own ice cream sundaes. That's an activity that people are really into. And this year we added laser tag, and that was really super popular. We had a lot of demand for that.
How big is so? I know Trent mentioned the wee bit in the inflatable courses. I have seen like some Jellystones doing the laser tag, and I know the laser tag thing is becoming a little bit more popular. So, how big is your laser tag arena that you guys have at the park?
It's probably like 50 feet by, I don't know, maybe 100, 300 feet.
Yeah.
It's not big enough, to be perfectly honest. Finding space to put something like that in the park was a challenge. And if I could make it 3 times bigger, I would. So we did a lot of, as the season went on, we added a lot of obstacles into the field to kind of maximize the amount of hiding that you could do in a small space.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just being able to adapt with what you have, I guess. I mean, there's tons of activities out there like laser tag and archery tag and different things. You can have Kitty, do you have anybody like vendors come, like food vendors or anything come to the park or?
I don't do any food vendors because I have my own food service on property. But there are definitely some activities that I outsource. I have like ceramics and some of my arts and crafts. I have someone who comes in and does that because
Yeah.
it's just so many supplies to have on hand that if I can have someone come in and it's very turnkey, then that makes my life much easier. And then I outsource a lot of my nightly entertainment. So, we hire jugglers and magicians, hypnotists, people who run karaoke, things like that, so that there's a lot of variety for our customers.
Do you hypnotize them to go to the camp store and buy stuff? It's time to be honest.
I should. Yeah, that should be in the contract, but not yet.
RVing's going to have a hypnotist at their conference this year, and I'm pretty convinced that they're going to hypnotize people to go into the expo and buy stuff. So we'll see when we get there if they turn into zombies. So, I guess you'd meant the camp store stuff is neat too. I mean, the families, they come and they want to have a great experience, and then they want to remember that great experience with items. You mentioned like tie-dye shirts. I know, Kitty, when I've heard you speak before, you have like a tons of little items that you make and you put your logo on it. And I know Trent, of course, Jellystone has thousands of products. I guess, what was that like trying to keep your camp stores full this year with the supply issues? Yeah, nightmare. Yeah. Were you able to have success, Kitty, I guess, or?
We were, yep. So, at the beginning of the season, we did like our typical first order, and we were starting to sell out by, end of June, which is too early. And so we kind of focused on a few key items that we were able to reorder, things like hoodies and, simple coffee mugs, things like that, that people are really looking for. and we stocked up huge on those basics so that we knew we had at least something. Same thing with like toys. Toys and stuffed animals went really fast this year, so we found ourselves having to look for new vendors who could deliver.
And I'm betting Trent has a lot of stuff bobbing around in the Pacific Ocean yet.
Yeah. So as Ben said, I mean, yeah. So our retail team is great. They create, more than 600 exclusive Yogi Bear items, and yeah, even after 2020 with the pandemic, they were buying. I think they upped their orders by 25% or more to think that, okay, in case things did get bad, this would carry us over. But with the massive amount of people coming in, and at Jellystone Parks, about 30% of the revenue comes from ancillary sources, which a lot of it is the retail items. It also includes, tie-dye and ceramics and things like that. Then our warehouse that I don't even know how many, thousands and thousands of square feet it is, that they basically sold out of everything. So whether it was, the plush toys or the squishmallows, which are super hot this year, or, t-shirts and things, like even I was visiting a park, just a couple of weeks ago, and I said, oh, I want to grab some shirts so that we can give to some kids while we're there in case we're taking pictures and videos. And, our VP of retail is like, okay, you can go and look, but like, I'm out of shirts. And I figured, okay, she meant, maybe some of the styles or some of the size or whatever. I look back and there's just, feet and feet of, it's usually packed to the ceiling, and it's just empty. And there's like, one box of one style and one size. I was like, oh, when you said you were out of stuff, you really mean you were out of stuff. Like, it's just crazy. And yeah, with everything coming in, our retail team, they work 12 months a year to try and source stuff. And now it's been even harder with all the production delays and trying to get stuff, even now for 2023, because everything in the world is so backed up by so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kitty, I know you, I think when I heard you speak a couple years ago, you had mentioned, you come out with like a new camp shirt every year and different things, and people will like line up to buy the shirt for that year, right? It's pretty popular, I guess.
Yeah, we do a few styles each year, but yeah, we definitely have to order a lot of them.
And then you give stuff away as like prizes for like different activities and things too, like maybe stuff that's going out.
We do like a tournament shirt that we give out every year, and while we don't change the style every year, we at least change the color of it every year, so it kind of becomes a badge of honor if you can have one from every single year, if you have the whole rainbow of tournament shirts.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you come up with the products that you sell at the camp store? Do customers come in and give you suggestions, or when you add new things, or do you just go to conventions and just pick things that you think would sell well?
All of the above. We take a lot of customer input. We look at what has been popular in years past. Retro is always, if you can bring a style from 15, 20 years and kind of revamp it a little bit and bring it back, that's always very popular with your repeat customers. We go to a lot of different buying shows. I have a buying show tomorrow in New Hampshire. We'll see what's new and up and coming, and and we try to trust our vendors. We work with a lot of different companies, and that's what they specialize in. And, it's a dumb person that surrounds themselves with experts and then doesn't listen to their advice.
And then Trent, you said I mean, I've been down to your offices, and I've seen the warehouse that you were talking about, and it's a pretty big warehouse, so I can't imagine that thing being empty, but that would be pretty shocking. But you have like a whole merchandising team, and obviously they work year round. I would imagine they go to buying shows and different things too.
Exactly. And
Up.
they go to, they go to, souvenir shows and apparel shows, and, work with vendors around the world, around the clock, and just, keep coming up on, what's hot, what's new, what's going to be there. And basically I think their driving force is just, would Ben Quiggle want this? And if so, it goes in the line.
That's a good rule for life. That's what I've been trying to tell my wife, but it doesn't work out all the time. So,
Trent, one more question for Trent. What's the what's the next new thing? Is there something out there that we just haven't even been aware of yet? I know you visit campgrounds, you see the same things over and over again over the years. Then all of a sudden, something like Gaga Ball comes along, or here comes pickleball. That from out of the blue. Is there something out there that we just aren't aware of yet that you've got your eye on?
I guess there's nothing immediate that I haven't seen out there anywhere. Like definitely the floating obstacle courses has grown by leaps and bounds. I mean, right now we have probably 7 or 10 parks of the 75 in the system that have it. But even of those 7 or 10, I think all but one literally added to their size this past off season, with most of them doubling, if not tripling. I think it was kind of like they saw, how popular these things were. And, based on the number of pieces and the size, you can fit, let's say 50 people at a time. And they're like, oh, well, we could have fit 150 people if we had more space. So they were definitely, adding to it. From there, I think 2 other things that we've seen just kind of tested in the system that'll be interesting to see whether or not people have it more are, zip lines is certainly, has been more popular. Outside the campgrounds, we're seeing it, starting to add a little bit there. And then we had one park that actually added a VR room where, you put on the helmet and kind of do that. And we think that could be the next big thing, which you wouldn't see necessarily tied to a campground at all, but you do see more, between escape rooms, which, several of our parks have, and VR rooms coming down. I think it's just more and more, unique entertainment experiences. And, that's something that's not even necessarily outdoors, it's just indoors. But it goes back to the fact that we've got families coming. Like, what is a kid who's 6 to 12 going to want to do? And yes, everybody loves pools and water slides and foam parties, but whether it's zip lines or virtual reality, anything that leads to the entertainment experience is going to be good for us and for similar campgrounds that target that audience.
We wrote an article, this was probably like 3-4 years ago, about rage rooms, which some we had heard, there are businesses that create these rooms where you can go bash stuff with hammers. And we had actually ran into a few campgrounds that were doing that. And I thought, that would be kind of a neat thing for campgrounds to do, but I haven't seen campgrounds do it. And you would think for the adults that would be kind of cool. You just create a room and let them go in there and smash stuff, I guess. I don't know.
You haven't seen it because we all have it behind closed doors. That when they need a break, they just go in.
Don't just have those for our employees.
Well, you can make some money off of it. Invite other people and charge them. So I guess just before we go, Kitty, I guess, how important is communication? You say you have a lot of repeat campers. They come, and obviously they're probably keeping an eye on you during the winter when you're closed, and they want to know what activities are coming up and themed weekends or whatever you do. How do you communicate with them and communicate to the campers about what's coming up, I guess?
We do a lot of social media. Social media is really, where it's at least for our customer base.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also utilize like a monthly newsletter where we highlight key items, either that are important for them to know, like, hey, it's time to pay your bill, or, we just got in this cool new amenity that we're going to be putting in, like, here's some pictures of us installing it. So newsletter, social media, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it's important to realize, obviously, people are really skeptical about sending emails, a lot of emails, because we all get junk emails all the time or irrelevant emails. But I think, if you tailor the content to what, if you have a camper and you're tailoring the content to what they're interested in and they want to know what's going on at a park, then it's not really junk mail. It's valuable information for them. And, you don't have to feel bad about sending emails or text messages. So that's just my 2 cents, I guess. But I guess it was great talking with you guys. We're gonna get going here. It was nice seeing you, Kitty, and nice seeing you, Trent. And hopefully we can connect at conferences down the road. I know it's great to see in-person conferences coming back, and hopefully we can connect down the road in person in the future. So
thank you so much,
great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and next week we're going to be talking about statistics, and I know we have seen a lot of studies come out from all different places, and we're going to be bringing on some guests just talking about how we sort through all of this information coming in, and how we know if the information is accurate information or information we need to take a second look at, and different things like that next week. So it should be a really interesting conversation. And as we dive into some of the numbers that the industry is seeing. So look forward to seeing everyone next Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.